Hello, I'm Steve Prince, and I'm a 1991 graduate of Xavier University of Louisiana in the Fine Arts Department. I was chosen by the Xavier Alumni Association to create a commemorative print honoring Dr. Norman C. Francis' 40 years of service as president of Xavier University. I would like to take this time to extend a special thank you to Fred Carter, Holly Bastian, and Janice House for being a conduit between the Alumni Association and me as the artist to create this commemorative print. In this video, I will explain the symbolic elements inscribed in the image that is a 7-color lithograph created at the world-renowned Brandywine Press located in Philadelphia. At the bottom left of the composition, you will note that there is a tombstone which alludes to all of our ancestors in the past who gave their lives in the struggle for equality within America. In the bottom of the format, you also notice there are 3 rows of green interspersed with yellow and red lines which symbolize the fields from which many of our people toiled and slaved in and gave their lives. A flower to the right of that springs from the ground, which is a lily, which is symbolic of new life. If you come a little bit more towards the center of the format, you will see a woman who is bending over, her hands reaching for the earth, and she's pulling up plants. She symbolizes not only a person that worked the fields, but symbolizes a person working within a garden, as if to culture and to nurture it, as I make a direct parallel to new life. There's a red line that stems from her ankle and wraps across the bottom, which houses a young man on his knees with, as a shoe shine boy, cleaning the shoes of a gentleman. The shoe shine boy is representative of Dr. Francis as a child, because that was one of the first jobs in which he held. And in that position, he basically believed that he had reached the pinnacle of his life, and that was something he was going to do. But his life was marked for far greater things than what he did there. You will notice, too, that there's a blue series of waves going across the bottom behind the young man kneeling down, shining the shoes. The blue waves is symbolic of the water, or symbolic of a baptismal. As you see the body coming out that's in a light cream skin is rising up out of that water as to be baptized in the Holy Spirit. Then there's a series of steps, green steps that go up back into the format, which is tied into the dress of the woman who has a fan in her hand, which is basically says saved. She is basically in a posture of praise as the man ascends these steps, which is symbolic of Loyola University, which is the school that Dr. Francis received his law degree. To the left of the save sign, you will note that there are 4 signs. Their juxtaposition create a cross-like form. One of the signs says, I am a man. Another one says, love thy neighbor. Another sign says, freedom riders. And another one says, XU rocks the house. Those different elements allude to different time periods throughout history that have affected the American landscape. The love thy neighbor is representative of Christ, and basically his professing that love is our greatest power that we must exude upon this earth. I am a man alludes to the time period when Dr. Martin Luther King was going to fight for freedom and equality in Memphis, Tennessee, and working with the bus strikers. This is a sign in which they carried in their hands as they march up and down the streets. But it also marks the space where Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. On that same day, Dr. Norman C. Francis became the president of Xavier University of Louisiana in that fateful day in 1968. The sign that has the Freedom Riders on it alludes to that Dr. Norman C. Francis allowed Xavier University to be a space where he harbored those people helping African Americans for voter registration. X rocks the house alludes to the spirit of Xavier University. It alludes to the people that have worked together and that they are working in harmony to do the work of nation building. To the right, I show elements that allude to America, into the jazz idiom that was created by the African spirit, and also New Orleans being that home ground for where jazz was born out of. I have a guy blowing on a horn as he's blowing it up into the wind. Up above him, you see a second liner, which is juxtaposed to the earlier space where I showed you the tombstone at the bottom of the composition. So you see a symbol of the dirge, and in counterpoint off of that, you see a symbol of the second line. The man wields a handkerchief in his hand. If you look at the very edge of the handkerchief, you will see the dove's eye, which the white handkerchief became symbolic of the white dove, and the dove symbolized the peace. Up above his arm, you will see three birds, and the three birds are symbols of the Holy Spirit, God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Behind him is the traditional African structure of the shotgun home. And you see a cluster of people standing around another representation of Dr. Norman Francis, who has a scroll inside of his hand. The scroll alludes to the idea that Dr. Francis is like an architect. He laid the foundation, and he began to expand Xavier University to make it as a powerhouse of a university within the United States and within the world. Several people around him representing different ethnicities are gathered around him as he is a leader upon the campus, a leader within this nation, and a leader around the world. A woman has a Mullen Peltzer in her hand, and she is representing one of the majors that is at Xavier University in terms of pharmacy, and again, doing services for the people. Mother Catherine Drexel, who is a person who founded Xavier University. You see a representation up above the larger representation of Dr. Norman Francis. In the background, you see the St. Louis Cathedral. You see the Superdome. You see the landscape of New Orleans, Louisiana. And then to the left of Mother Catherine Drexel, you see the 1925 is the year of the founding of Xavier University, and you see the large administration building flanking her to the left. Interspersed throughout the composition, you see various words of Gerktown and Palmetto at the bottom. One, Gerktown is the space where Xavier University has been planted, and Palmetto is one of the major thoroughfares that goes through the campus. Central to the composition, you see a large face of Dr. Norman Francis. Around his neck, you see the Medal of Freedom, which is one of the highest civilian honors that you can receive in the United States. The words are letters that drape him on his clothing. One says the Xavier, and it shows the year of 1968 in which he took office. It has the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, which he's a part of. And at the same token, it has the Alpha and the Omega, which symbolizes the God that protects over him. And then the word family, which is central to Dr. Francis, as to the right of him is the image of Blanche Francis, who is his wife, who is his anchor, who has been with him the whole journey. And the two of them represent not only the strength and the vitality of a couple, but the strength and vitality of a family that is an example before all those who are at Xavier University. To the left of the format, there's a face that represents Dr. Francis in his younger years. And the spirit flows from out of his mouth. The spirit is the word that he speaks, which has a little heart on the surface of the spirit, who represents the love that he is depositing wherever he goes. So all these elements culminate together to basically give the title to this piece, which is Honoring an Icon. Thank you.